We're back with another episode of Franchise My Business, the podcast for franchisors hosted by franchisors. I'm your host, Kevin Oldham, and we're going to talk about painting. We're going to talk about painting, but for home painting as well as commercial, but we're also going to talk about a niche of painting that the gentleman who we have as a guest today has really carved out and then furthermore expanded to 80 locations. So this is going to be a fun one because home services is a really amazing business model to go into. This is a low overhead model that we're going to talk about, which is super important as you're evaluating opportunities to invest in franchises. Let's just dive right in. Like my intro, we're done. Nick Lopez from Lime Painting. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Been looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. I always love, and I think part of the coolest part of entrepreneurship and what I get to do through this podcast is hear the founder's journey, because nobody's journey is the same. And rarely does it turn out how we think it's going to turn out at the very beginning. So I want to go back to basically a decade ago, 2013. You decided to start painting houses. What were you doing before 2013 that caused you to basically start this business? Sure.
Well, I'm an out-of-state student from Denver. I went to Michigan State, and that created the necessity to start a business. Ultimately, I went to Michigan State to wrestle. They have a great business school, and when I was a sophomore in high school, they had a freshman wrestler at my weight class that had just won the national title. And so my logic, as a 14-year-old, whatever I was that I would go to Michigan State my freshman year. He'd be a senior, and I'd learn from him and take over my sophomore year. And I did just that. I roommated with him and had a great time wrestling. Some of the best memories I've ever had are with that wrestling team my freshman year at Michigan State. And that ultimately made the decision to hang up the shoes and start a paint company to pay for college bills and tuition and everything else that much harder because I was a gym rat. I absolutely loved it and grew up playing sports. And my parents put me in multiple to keep me from tearing the house apart. And, now I have 4 kids and it's happening to me. So it's payback time. It's payback. My walls and trim. Good thing I know a couple painters. But I met my wife and mother of 4 children my freshman year of college. And so I was hit with like a $2,200 bill. And that's where reality set in for me that, wow, this out-of-state tuition thing is the real deal. I've maxed out all my credit cards. Mm-hmm. It's, year one, there's no way this is sustainable. I'm going back to Denver. And that was essentially where I was at when my wife offered up the $2,200, even against her older sister's advice.
But right. And she was your girlfriend at that point in time,
right? And she her sister was like, look, if you give that money away, you're never going to get it back. And she was right. She still hasn't got it back to this day.
Yeah. She's got it back, but it's been in like diapers and baby wipes and stuff like
pacifiers
that, right?
And strollers, and I'm the one carrying all the groceries and then when we go to the airport, could you imagine that 4 toddlers?
It's the worst. It's the worst.
Our oldest
is
the 7. Worst. So
bless your heart.
From 7 to 3. Yeah, from 7 to 3, we're like right there. And I wouldn't ask for it any other way. But anyways, I started a paint company, and it was called Spartan College Painters. This was back in 2008. And I went and built a business as a side hustle at the time. And it just so happened that East Lansing is a little bit more of a luxury market, right? So I found myself working for clients that cared about quality. They owned a custom home. And I started getting my business degree. I'm learning about competitive advantage and positioning in the market. You learn about quality and price. If that's your lane, that's where you're positioned in the market. You build everything around that consumer. This started shaping an opportunity. And the opportunity was that, I'd work for clients and they'd say, hey, thanks for showing up. Thanks for answering your phone. Thanks for doing a good job. And I love compliments.
The bar's so low, isn't it? I mean, I know, but when you hear those, it's like, man, the bar is so low in service.
Yeah.
Full tilt.
It's two sides of the coin. One side, I love pats on the back. Who doesn't? Keeps you going, keeps you serving, and keeps you working harder. And then the other part is, oh my gosh, I can compete with the bar this low. And I love that. It was a bar that I could compete with. I can show up. I can do a good
answer
job.
The phone, right? Yeah.
I can do what I say I'm going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I did a solo episode this year, and I said the best marketing tactic of 2023, and frankly, forever, but I felt called to drop that video, is service. I'm like, when the markets get tighter and people stop spending money and things like that, or they research more before they do it, I can build you the most beautiful website. I can optimize and do all these things, but you got to answer the phone and act like you care. And I can't force you to do that. I can't force you to care. I can't force you to answer the phone. So it is sad that that's like the bar, but knowing it is, and then being probably, if you're like me, our family, we expect good service. And if we don't get it, we'll move to somebody else. And then once you're a good service provider, we're probably locked in for life. Like we'll be your advocates and sneeze the message to the people that we care about, because they know that we require good service. We expect it. Awesome. Competitive advantage. Doing a good job, doing service. 2018, you decided to start franchising. What was going on in the business at that point in time where Nick's like, man, I'm going to flip this hat. I'm going to start mentoring other entrepreneurs.
That's a great point, right? And it goes back to that time in college where, I'm learning about the opportunity, right? And the opportunity is becoming clearer. The opportunity from a value standpoint, right? Being a service-based company, we're building relationships, and that's what it's all about, is the people. And so, so much of the industry deteriorates the integrity of that relational focus. It's so fragmented, and for customers in our niche, they want to pay more to get more. They care about quality. They own a luxury estate. They own a high-end vehicle. They just went to a high-end restaurant the past weekend with friends. Again, they want to pay more to get more. And so when it comes to contracting, it's very difficult to find that sort of brand experience, consumer experience. And when it comes to painting, I always joke that roofers and painters compete for the worst reputation in contracting. It's because of the barriers to entry, especially for painting. You pick up a paintbrush and you're a painter. No license, most stuff you can get from the ground level. You're a painter. Zero experience, minimal barriers to entry. And so obviously we were joking about it, right? Loving the fact that I could compete there. But really understanding that just doing the bare minimums, I'm creating a competitive advantage, which is a lot of value for the customer. And when you can do it consistently, that word of mouth spreads, to your point. And then when you start leveling up beyond just the basics, you have a sophisticated business that, is just light years away from the competitors and can give a tremendous amount of value in the market. And so we're the first and only largest luxury paint company as a result, but it stems from value to the consumer and value to the franchise owner to deliver that unique experience in their local community that's experiencing the same void in the market for the same niche. And so, I had seen a national opportunity. It's not happening in East Lansing. Let me look into national companies that are doing this, because here I am, 18, 19, winning business from local luxury paint companies, other national paint companies. And so there weren't any. And I spoke to a mentor. He gave me a book called E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. And, I'm one of many folks that book has impacted,
it's but it book,
impacted me in the middle of college. And so I spent the rest of my time applying my business degree, marketing degree, sales degree, getting consumer feedback, subcontractor feedback, and adjusting the model to ultimately do what Gerber introduces, which is creating systems and process and a duplicatable service in a manner that you can work on the business, not in it, and scale through this growth model of franchising, where you're in business with other business owners and you're not in business by yourself. And so, that all resonated with me going back to my days growing up in sports and loving everything about the locker room and the culture. And so being in business with other business owners was my jam. And the vision was clear. I was going to ditch this dream job that I had, that I was working toward, and deliver this value in this niche that, I didn't really sign up for. I've always said the industry wooed me to what I do. In-home sales, if you've never done it, is very relational. And so that's something I really loved, and the instant gratification of transforming an estate, that was awesome. And so really fell in love with the industry and the craft but on the other side, love business, and first and foremost, a business guy that seen an opportunity to deliver value to customers that are underserved and have a frustrating experience time and time again. Just speaking of timeline a little bit.
Man, that's awesome.
That was 2013. Started Lime, moved back to Denver, and then grew that to a multi-million-dollar location. Joined the International Franchise Association, got my CFE, traveled around the country, learned as much as I could. One thing that I knew in my undergrad is that what created our success was our sales process, our marketing, and that all went back to my business degree. And so I wanted to learn from folks that had been there, done it, and could shortcut my path to executing on the right things within the franchise model. As a franchisor, it's a totally different business. And so what the IFA allowed me to do was to network and do just that, continue to learn what I don't know and figure out who I want to surround myself with, from vendors to partners, consultants, you name it. And then also go through their rich content. They designed a certification program. You take a ton of credits. You're traveling around to these conferences around the country, and the best of the best are teaching these courses specific to what they do for a living. Yeah. And it's incredible. They're not just teaching, they're like right in it.
Yep.
So I did that for about a year and a half.
Yeah, they're doing.
I worked with a team of advisors to build infrastructure for the franchise weekly for about a year and a half. And then I had a great mentor of mine, a business consultant. His name's Rick Grossman, and he works independently. And I ended up stumbling into him and worked at a franchise incubator for that period of time, where there were a handful of other advisors that sat in like the CFO, CEO, COO, CMO type roles and worked with me and two other emerging brands that had 0 locations.
Yeah.
And we got together every week and just rolled up our sleeves and did the stuff that, is required to support and train and properly onboard franchise partners. Again, doing this with folks that knew way more than me, but could point me to the process for, how to build a successful experience for a franchise owner. Rick had grown his own franchise to about 150 locations in a little over a couple years. So he was the gentleman that was really bringing the team together and pouring into, these emerging franchise founders that, had 0 locations. And so he helped us bring on our early adopters and legacy owners, and really from our inner circle. One thing that Rick told me is, look, you shouldn't be franchising if people around you, specifically your all-star employees, won't invest in your franchise. If they don't believe in it, if they can't do it, then, you should consider the validity of the opportunity. That's obviously his approach. That's what I took as the next step, and so we did just that. We were fortunate to have some all-star people on our team, our founding location. They ultimately became our first couple franchise owners. And then we onboarded our first out-of-state owner in Boise, Idaho. And we worked on, teasing out the bottlenecks in the business. That was from about 2016 to 2018 between the IFA and onboarding our initial owners. You fast forward to 2020, that's the year to start scaling. In August of 2020, we had 7 locations. And you fast forward to Q2 of 2023, we're at 80 locations, and that's been our journey. It's been fun. It's been exciting. Sure have learned a lot, and I hope I continue to learn and have fun.
Yeah, impressive, man. I love the fact that you engage mentors. And particularly when you talked about eMyth. So I'm a little bit older than you. I got the first version of eMyth, not revisited, but the very first version when I was 20 years old. I was selling real estate, and my mentor gave that book to me. And it is a transformative book. And if you're thinking about going into franchising, I would almost say it's required reading, because it is so much about building systems and things like that. And that's really what a franchise is. Without systems and being able to replicate the business model, you really don't have a franchisable concept. So listeners, eMyth Revisited is a gold mine of information. It's one of those books that I frankly revisit once a year, and will continue to try to perfect the practices in it. Sometimes it is hard not to get into the weeds and working in the business, right? Sometimes we're required to do that. We'll have a fire or something like that, but the goal is to rise back up and get back out of it and working on the business as quickly as possible. You've got a young family. That, if I look at the timeline, you decided to start taking on all this crazy growth as you're starting your family. How have you balanced that? So I had young kids when I started my business. They were 1 and 3, and it was different. I'm not going to lie. It's a whole different set of variables when you got little ones at home that can't talk and are very dependent. How have you managed, a larger family? I can tell that's super important to you with this business that is also growing.
I have help. So my wife and I have been very fortunate to have an au pair. Awesome. She lives in our home. Yeah. And she's been with us, 2.5 years now, which has been awesome. And the kiddos love her. So she does so much to help, and that has made it very doable. Granted, I have a wife that has supported me since day one, all the way back to college, and
all the way back to giving you $2,100 that you haven't paid back, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, even franchise owners or high performing employees, time and time again, the secret weapon is if they're married, their spouse just supports the heck out of them.
Yes.
And that creates a lot of sustainability. And I think that's been something that I've really benefited from. So I think
it's huge, man. Like my wife is so supportive, and I think I call her name's Andrea. I call her Saint Andrea, because some of the stuff that as an entrepreneur I'll bring home, she doesn't relate to, but she'll still listen and support, and be there, the high highs, the low lows, and the stuff in between. And that, I don't think that can be emphasized enough. Just overall in business, forget franchising, business ownership is tough. And if you have, a spouse or a companion or something like that, and you don't have their support, it's going to be challenging. It just will be challenging because that person, I don't know about you, but my wife kind of serves in a board of directors role or advisor's role. She's not involved in the company, but I bring home my problems sometimes. And sometimes I need her help working through them, because she's an operations person. I'm a marketer. So like she can see what I don't. Right. So that's awesome, man.
My wife's a great sanity check. So
yeah. Keep us from doing stupid stuff. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
by the way, there's a great, since we were talking about books, I don't have it here, but I want you to check out The Road Less Stupid if you haven't read that. Okay. It is, as a matter of fact, it has so many nuggets and gold mines in it, or nuggets of gold in it, that it's almost overwhelming. Like I tried to find an abstract that had all of the bullet points in it, because there's so much gold in there. But that's a book that I'm starting to recommend to a lot of entrepreneurs. I wish I would have read that book a while ago when it first came out.
Yeah.
So what's the future look like for your company? Continuing to expand the network? I mean, it looks like you've got a lot of coverage, but there's also still a lot of territories available, it looks like.
Yeah, a lot of territory still available. Obviously, it's going quickly, but always looking for new talent to grow the family, the right talent, of course. But looking to grow and looking to find great partners to take us to the next level.
Well, let's say somebody's listening and they want to get into the luxury painting business, and they want to be led by somebody who values family and all the things that I personally think are super, super important in life, more important than what we get to do work-wise. What's the best way for somebody to, connect with you or learn more about what you guys are doing?
Yeah, you can check us out online, linepainting.com. You can check out the franchise, anything about the services that we offer. You can also check out our podcast. It's called the Level Up with Nick Lopez Show. And you can email me anytime. It's nick@linepainting.com. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. Well, Nick, I've really, really enjoyed hearing your journey. I love how you've been intentional with the growth of the business, as well as kind of that cool story where, your girlfriend, who's now your wife and mother of 4 children, helped bail you out when you needed some financial help back when you were in college, right? Like that's awesome. That's awesome. So congrats on all of your success.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think, just being consistent and working hard and having a clear vision, it goes a long way.
It does. When we know where we're going, or at least we think we know where we're going, it makes the journey a lot easier.
Yeah, true that. And find people that have been there, done it, and lean into them. And, for me, I had my version of folks, and everybody has their version. But a lot of folks with wisdom speaking in on counsel toward the work you're doing now that's getting you to your vision. So,
amen, brother.
Yep.
Well, until next time, I'm your host, Kevin Oldham, and I have 2 asks. Number 1, if you enjoyed this conversation with Nick, and I think you're insane if you didn't, please go ahead and text this episode to one person who you think would like to hear Nick's story. Ask number 2, We don't advertise. We really don't do much to promote the show. It's all organic. So I would deeply appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button on the platform you're listening to right now. Until next time, I hope you have a phenomenal week and be well.